Hi everyone, this is Nicole Steele. I'm the owner of the Joyful Stamper and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Every Saturday I show you how I take the weekly sketch from Splitcoaststampers and I am inspired by it to turn it into a card. So I post the sketch and on my blog, and I also have a written PDF tutorial that I put on my blog too, in addition to this video. So if you like written instructions, just hop over to thejoyfulstamper.com and you can download those, print them, save them, pin them, if you have a board, whatever you want. But for this Saturday's sketch, I decided to use the Poinsettia Place stamps and dies from Stampin' Up! Because it's time to start making Christmas cards, right? So let's jump in. I am going to use a garden green piece of cardstock, and this is 8.5 by 5.5 inches, scored down the middle at 4 1/4, and then I have folded it in half. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm taking a 4 inch by 5 1/4 inch piece of Poinsettia Place Designer Series paper. And they have a design on either side, so you can pick which pattern you want to use. I'm going to use this one. And to get the rounded corner that is in the sketch, I will show you how I did it. There may be corner rounders out there that are big enough to do that, but I don't have one. So what I'm going to do is improvise. I'm taking my layering circles dies and I'm going to use the largest unscalloped one. If you don't have these dies, you could also take a Stampin' Up! Embellishment container and use this too. And then you'll need a pencil. I'm going to do this on the back side of my Designer Series paper so that my pencil marks don't show. And I'm going to lay this circle down along the bottom right edge of that Designer Series paper piece, and then I'm just going to trace it with my pencil. Just like this. And like I said, you can use a Stampin' Up! Embellishment container. And then I'm going to take my paper snips and I'm just going to cut along that penciled in line. I know some of you may be cringing at the thought of freehand cutting a curve or an arc like this, but I assure you it's okay. Just take your time, move the paper and not the, or move the paper, not your scissors. And it looks like I'm doing the opposite corner, but that's okay. We're gonna go ahead and do this anyways. I guess the other option too is I could make it go up there. Maybe I'll do that instead. So there you go. Either way, it'll work. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and glue that one down. See, this just goes to show you that you can make mistakes and recover from them. It's perfectly fine. All right, we're gonna go ahead and put that on. Now the other option I can do too is I can decide to turn this way so that my curve still stays on the bottom corner like that. Okay, so we've got that done. Now we are gonna go ahead and we're gonna do some stamping. So I am bringing in soft seafoam cardstock, and this is red velvet paper. I cut a piece of it, but I wanted some touchable texture on this Christmas card. And I also wanted to stamp on it and emboss on it, because did you know you could do that with our red velvet paper? You get two 12-inch by 12-inch sheets in each package. And I found out, yes, you can. You can stamp and emboss on them, and it looks gorgeous. I'm going to use cherry cobbler ink to stamp on this red velvet. And let me show you the stamps that I'm using. This is Poinsettia Petals. It's clear photopolymer, so you can layer and do two-step stamping to fill in the color and the images, and you'll see exactly where you're stamping. And I'm going to use the second largest poinsettia to stamp on this. I'm inking it up in cherry cobbler, and then I'm going to stamp it on this piece of velvet. Let's see if I can get it here. I had it cut. There we go. I had it cut to the size I needed. Can you see that? I did try stamping it with real red on this, but it didn't show up as well as the cherry cobbler, so that's why I stuck with the cherry cobbler. Now this ink does not dry immediately on the red velvet paper, so I'm gonna set it aside so that I can work with my soft seafoam pieces. Now what I'm gonna stamp on this is a sprig, and I'm actually going to do this 3 times. you see on my card here, I have 3 sprigs. I'm going to show you how to do one of them, and I've already gone ahead and done the other 2. And I'm going to initially stamp it in soft suede ink. This is the outline of the sprig. And then I'm going to use real red ink to fill in those berries. And because it's clear, I can line it up and fill those in just so. Now, one other thing I want to point out is I didn't just do one of those poinsettias. I have this one right here. That's the large one that I just stamped there. But I also went ahead and stamped and die cut 3 of the smallest poinsettias. And I did that ahead of time also. All right, now for this greeting, we're going to die cut those in a minute. For the greeting, I used For Unto Us. I just love this all sentiment stamp set. I'm always looking for Christmas sentiments to put on the inside and outside of my cards. In this set, it fits the bill. You can use these for outside and inside, and I just like the sentiments of it too. So that was an all-purpose Christmas stamps that I had to have. Now I wanted a multicolored look to the sentiment that I'm using. Christmas begins with Christ. So I'm going to use some Stampin' Write markers in Garden Green and Cherry Cobbler in order to get that multicolored look. And I'm going to use the brush tip ends of these markers. Now, the Cherry Cobbler part that I'm coloring in is Christmas begins Christ. So I'll use the brush tip to just gently, you don't have to color very hard. And in fact, you don't want to color very hard because you don't want to ruin these brush tips. So I'm going to color in the word Christmas. And you don't have to hurry to do this because when you are done filling in all these images, you can go back and just gently breathe on it to re-wet the ink and stamp. So there's no rush. So I colored in Christmas. Now I'm going to color in the word Christ, and I'm going to color in the word begins. And now I'm going to take the brush tip end of my Garden Green marker, and I'm going to do this, or color in this little, what are they, pine bough? Pine bow? Is it a bough or bow? And I'm going to color in the word with. It's inside this little banner. And then I'm also going to color in Garden Green the little swirl that's underneath the word Christmas. Okay, then I'm just going to give a gentle breath onto it. That re-wets the ink like I said. And I'll stamp it onto soft sea foam. All right. I love that look. Now this I am going to trim closely, but you certainly don't have to. You can die cut it if you have any labels dies, rectangles, circles, ovals, whatever you like. It's up to you. It's your card, right? But I wanted to trim this very close around the sentiment, mostly because I knew I was going to layer it over a poinsettia, and I didn't want it to cover the poinsettia. So I decided I was going to cut it very closely to expose as much of that pretty flower as possible. I didn't want to hide any of that red velvet paper. And again, the trick is to turn the paper and not your scissors to get nice smooth edges. I actually find fussy cutting very relaxing and not a chore at all. And then take a look at it, see if you're happy with it. And if you are, we're going to set it aside because next up we're going to do some die cutting. So let me pull out my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and my plates. So I've got plate number 1, plate number 2 since I'm die cutting, plate number 3. One tip I have for you though is if I was going to do multiple passes in this machine, I would die cut the red velvet paper last if I've stamped on it because the ink may not be fully dry. It may transfer to your cutting plates, but I only need to go one pass through this machine, so this is good. Now I'm going to put my die on here, and I gotta get it to line up. So you just gotta turn it until you get it where you want it to be. That looks good. And then I have this part here, which is gonna emboss little, what do you call them? The vein lines, the leaf lines on to that velvet paper, and it's truly stunning. And now I have a die for this branch too. Okay, then I need to take my top cutting plate and I'm gonna run it through the machine. Now there are rubber feet on the bottom of this embossing machine, die cutting and embossing machine, so that it won't move. It's only moving because I have it on my paper pad, my grid paper, and that is what's sliding around. But if you put the machine on, like if I had it right on my desk, it would not be slipping and sliding. Okay. So now we've got this branch. We've got our poinsettia. And I don't know if you can see those little embossed lines there. Really pretty stuff. Okay, so now let's finish this card. And remember, I'm turning it this way because of my little boo-boo earlier of where I got that circle. And we're gonna start layering all our pieces and assembling our card. If you hear that, that's my dog, Lily. She came down here to join me. All right, the other thing I'm gonna be using too are these beautiful beaded pearls. I absolutely love these. We're gonna use them for our centers of the flowers. And the really cool thing, I don't know if you knew this, but you can use Stampin' Blends markers to color those pearls a different shade if you want to. Okay, let's begin layering. I'm going to use liquid glue to apply my poinsettias. So what I like to do before I start gluing everything down is just playing with the pieces as to where I want everything to go. And then when I'm happy with it, that's when I'll commit by gluing it all down. And I think that's what I like. And then those will go in the flower center. So I'm happy with that. So let's start applying everything. Now, for something, you can use mini glue dots if you want to for this too. You don't have to use liquid glue. And sometimes I don't put glue all the way to the ends of my pieces that I'm adhering because I like the way the ends flip up. It sort of gives movement to my card, and I like that. I don't know if this will make sense to you, but I like people to be involved with the card that I send them, whether it's writing a really meaningful message on the inside or them just having elements on it that I want them to touch, such as this velvet. I like putting details on my cards that make people want to study them a little bit more. It's fun. Oh, that may have been a little bit too much glue. So I'm actually going to dab some of that onto the back of that poinsettia. Let's glue that on. Tuck it a little closer. Don't be afraid to spend some time playing around with the layout of your card. These sketches are meant to inspire you, and Splitcoaststampers will tell you that. You can flip the sketch, turn it around, you know, it's supposed to inspire you, not imprison you to doing what it shows. Okay, I'm going to use dimensionals to glue down that sentiment. Sometimes I have trouble talking and stamping at the same time, if you haven't noticed. If you've watched some of my videos, you may have noticed that. But hopefully you're learning something. Hopefully you're seeing that there aren't really any rules with this and you can just have fun with it. And now we're going to use glue dots to put on those beaded pearls. Oh. Sticking them right in the center. These beaded pearls are some of the most beautiful embellishments I think I've ever seen Stampin' Up! Come out with. They just really, really make this card elegant, I think. Okay, we're not done. I'm pulling out some wonderful gems, and I'm going to add some of the gold ones to this card. I'm going to scatter them around. And there's a couple different sizes here. There's smaller ones and larger ones. I'm going to use some of these larger ones here for a more dramatic effect. Okay. All right, now the card is finished, but I realize a step that I skip a lot of time is stamping the envelope. Stampin' Up! Has envelopes in both Whisper White and Very Vanilla, and even clear if you want your greeting card to show as, you know, everybody to be able to admire it as it's being mailed. And I'm going to stamp this envelope. And we are going to use Garden Green and Real Red to dress up this envelope. I mean, if you're going to go to all the trouble to make a card, why not give it pretty packaging too? I mean, can you imagine opening up your mailbox and seeing that? I mean, I would get excited about that. I do, because people send me handmade cards, and I love it when I open it up and I see that stamped envelope because I know it's a little hint of something good inside. Okay, this is Garden Green, and these stamps again are from Poinsettia Petals. Now, any of the supplies that I'm using today, you can get in my store, shopwithnicole.stampinup.net, and I actually have a rewards program too. So you get points for your orders for shopping with me because I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your loyalty. I'm going to stamp off once before filling in those leaves. And the written tutorial that I have on my blog lists all the supplies I used for this card. And I'm going to do another one on the flap. I love stamping so much. It's so much fun to be creative. And we're heading into that time of year too where it's getting colder and darker. The days are shorter. Maybe some rain or even snow is in the future, and it's so wonderful to just brew a cup of tea, sit down at my desk, and create and play. And not only that, but it has a purpose behind it too, because I can write something inside of there that's encouraging. I can write a prayer in there for somebody, wish somebody a happy birthday, and just make them smile. And I love doing things with a purpose, and this definitely has one. So there you go. So you actually are getting two versions of the Saturday Sketch. This horizontal one, and I have the original vertical one I made. So see, you can do it either way. So thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you stop back next Saturday and hit the subscribe button and this little bell, and you'll be sure to get notified every time I post a video here on my YouTube channel. So, all right, guys, take care. Bye.